I have 2 different degrees in philosophy, and I remembered a discussion where we asked the question of whether or not philosophy makes progress. Physics got us to space, into the moon. Chemistry got us fertilizer, and to our population of 8 billion people. Biology got us your really big corn. But what are the iPhones of philosophy, the space race of social science? One answer that I heard, and I wish I could remember the source for, is that philosophy does make progress, but since philosophy is not an object out in the world, but rather the way we see and perceive the scenes, my patrons will get a behind the scenes. This whole setup is totally obnoxious. All right, sorry. Here we go. One answer I heard, and I wish I could remember the source for, is that philosophy does make progress. But since philosophy is not an object out in the world, but rather the way that we see and perceive the world, seeing its progress is by definition difficult. Part of why we celebrate Martin Luther King Day in the first place is because the idea of equal rights is a social invention worthy of celebration. And if that phrase makes you uncomfortable, think of it instead as philosophical progress. Because even the idea of free speech is just a lens through which we view the world. It's an invented idea. And just like we've grown accustomed to our iPhones and the internet, we've also grown accustomed to this socially constructed idea. And yes, I can hear the hairs bristling up on the backs of your Twitter typing angry thumbs, but I don't want to be mean to you right now. I don't want you to be upset because you believe that this concept of freedom is somehow objectively or divinely ordained. But friend, my dearest internet friend, we once thought that kings had divine rights too. Freedom of speech had no meaning because to publicly criticize the king was to publicly criticize God's choice of leader. And if we're being honest, we're not totally done with this idea, are we? While we often think of the founding of this country as a philosophical objection to the concept of the divine right of kings, we missed the fact that our very first move as a country was the divine right of manifest destiny. And we don't often say it that way, but I live in a city with a monument to westward expansion, right? A monument to the cultural idea that Western Caucasian man was superior to other races, and that by God, we needed to expand violently, if necessary, to share our superiority with the world. So when someone defends the concept of freedom of speech with religious fervor, I understand the origins of that emotion. But again, if we are honest, is this not how we continue to view ourselves on the world stage today? The variables are different, but the equation is the same, which is to say that we perceive it as our moral, divine, and philosophical obligation to function as the world police. And just like Elvis is not dead but just went home, manifest destiny is not dead. It has become our home. And in this context, we can see the thin blue line flag, not as a philosophical argument, but as a religious symbol, a modern icon of godly authority to police the world itself. A religious symbol not of kings, but of the divine rights of capitalism. It sees you when you're sleeping. It knows the price of goods. It knows if you've been bad or good, and it can burn you at the stake. When a house's foundation is rotting, it cannot stand for long. And one of the moral rots at the philosophical foundation of contemporary conservatism is the idea that capitalism, not people, is made in the image of God. We thought we led a revolution when we threw the tea in the harbor. No taxation without representation, we said. But all we did was replace the kings with the divine right of markets. That sentence was fun to write. The internet loves a punchy one-liner, and so do I. But even I will admit that it's a tad reductive and misses some of the genuine and real philosophical progress that this country has made. But we can't commit to learning a concept without also committing to learn its limits. If philosophical progress is progress in the lens through which we view the world, we must be willing to update the lens through which we view the world. Without this, we will stay in what will look to future ages as the dark ages looked to us. Us, the glorious now, where we let the poor die on the streets and tell bedtime stories to our children about the God of bootstraps and the patron saints of hard work. Us, the glorious now, where we do not treat the mentally ill, but instead imprison them or leave them to die in the elements, untreated and alone. Us, the glorious dark age now, where we will deploy tear gas and rubber bullets to protect property over people, to protect the mere egos of thin blue line law enforcement officials who cannot accept that some of their own will kill children, fathers, mothers, sons. Relax the hairs on the back of your angry Twitter thumbs. My dear internet friends, I am not one of your postmodern relativists. I do believe in progress. I do believe that we make it, but please, please remember, on the timescales of history, your sacred notion of freedom was once a progressive concept. And as much as we as a nation are founded on exploitation, we are also a nation founded on revolution. And you conservatives, in your dogmatic fervor to erase the exploitation from history, you have also erased the revolutionary spirit that founded this country. A revolutionary spirit at its core cannot be conservative. Because as much as revolution is about power, it is also about philosophical progress. We don't and won't make progress unless we can soften the edges of our dogmatism long enough to open the window a little every now and again to get a new prescription on the lenses through which we view life. When we founded this nation, we on the world stage helped replace the divine right of kings with the divine right of coins. What's next? What comes next? And in the timeless words of Abraham Lincoln, if you are still with me in this shared moment, you better hit subscribe or like and share. Maybe the bell. I don't make the rules. Thank you to my Patreon supporters that helps make this video possible. We made money into God, and I got bills to pay, so everything helps. There's links below if you want to buy some books from my reading list, or if you want to join on Patreon. But liking and sharing and commenting and subscribing is really the thing now, because I'm trying to expand back to YouTube from the Clock app. Happy reading. I'm Charlie. This is That Makes Sense to Me. Thanks for watching.